So there was, that's where I discovered it. And then I was working as a professional actor in New York. And in between gigs, I noticed that there were some empty stages and they were comedy clubs. So I thought, well, you know, I'm pretty darn funny. So, and I love comedy more than anything in the world. Every time I see a comedian, my heart would go to my chest. It's still my throat. I'm like, I love it. So I decided to try stand-up comedy in New York City, and I did, and I ended up doing it there. And I also became part of the in-house sketch comedy troupe at Caroline's on Broadway. I moved out here to raise my son, and I did mostly stand-up comedy and a lot of sketch. And that's how I met the love of my life, Mr. Michael. Oh yeah, the cat. I was with a sketch troupe. I've always done a lot of political comedy, and especially calling attention to the fact that I'm Mexican. A Mexican woman with a mic to me is a very political statement. Whether or not I'm good, it doesn't even matter, really. I'm a woman, Mexican woman with a mic to my mouth, and I get to express myself, which I think is a very important political statement. Anyway, so that's basically what I do. And now I came across this wonderful man, and then our beautiful friend Cal and Nancy, and we started doing a radio show. And that's basically it. Sorry. It's so lot.
Was that your 10 minutes?
I think that's the introduction.
Oh.
That was your introduction.
And it makes me very
Thank you. So, beautiful. Yes. I appreciate that. Mari. Michael?
Well, I started when I was 16, I guess, going to committee workshops in San Francisco. They were an improv group that was based on Second City. And when I was 16, I poured coffee for the committee. And I remember the night that Spiro Agnew resigned. And everybody was partying, and the entire show was about Spiro Agnew. And I thought, this is what I want to do. So pretty much from that point on, I've been in every improv group, done stand-up in every club, gone everywhere from the King's Baths in Hawaii to the Follies Burlesque. And so I've been doing comedy for 40, 50 years. Started in San Francisco, moved to LA, directed the Comedy Store Players. And one time the thing about improv is you always say yes to things. You say yes and somebody asked me if I wanted to direct a group. And I said, yes, okay. And that's where I met Mari. And out of that, we started writing together. And we had a dream.
Writing.
And it built, and we had this work, and then we met Cal, and Cal said yes. And we kind of built this thing together, and now, you know, how many years later, 4 or 5 years, we've got a nice body of work.
Uh-huh.
And before I pass it on to Cal, just if each of you, because I bet you both have on camera, just to say, how long have you been part of the San Francisco UU Church? I know, Mari, you came from another congregation, which you can share with that too, but just to say, how long have you been part of the church? So folks who may not know you know how long you've been with us.
5, 6, 7 years.
Max was 13. Max did his coming of age.
10.
How old are they when they do that?
Like 14.
14, and he's 20. So, yeah.
But I think he came the year before coming of age. So I think he may have been 13.
Yeah.
I think it was 7 years.
Yeah, 7 years here. Okay. And it's home. I love you guys. I love this place.
Thank you. Cal, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Ready? Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here with us. I'm Cal Ball. I've been with the Unitarian Church in San Francisco since June of 2020, so still a newbie. You can blame Mari for that. I had met her a couple of years earlier, and just through talking and getting to know her and her bringing me to the church, it was really a wonderful experience, and I'm delighted to be a member. Since I've become a member, I've done a good deal of work with UU The Vote. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of that, but it's an organization at the UUA level that works on working with voters to get them registered. And I consider it a core part of racial justice work because, not surprisingly, we focus on marginalized communities and underserved communities. Professionally, started playing music professionally, got paid when I was 14. And from that time to now, I've had just a series of wonderful experiences, learning to play, playing quite a bit within the San Francisco music community in the 70s. Got a chance to play with a few luminaries and then go on and do the whole Nashville thing for a few record companies back there. So it's been a wonderful experience and a journey. Came to comedy through Mike and Mari. I was actually working with another comedian and we were doing a sketch and we needed a female. And I had seen Mari and Michael at something called the Big Fat Year-End Kiss-Off and was just blown away. So finally got Mari in, that's how we met. And I'll just end by saying it's been a real lifesaver and a wonderful, nourishing experience for me. There's a lot of love that goes on between the fighting and the revision of the scripts. And it's also, important work. At least it's important to me. I can only speak for myself. Sitting here in California with the current political situation being what it is and what it was under the Trump administration, you really felt like you had to do. At least I did. I felt like I got to do something. And so being creative, through Mike and Mari, it afforded me an opportunity to work with some really brilliant people to say something, and say it through satire and say it through humor. And so we hope to share some of that with you tonight.
Thank you, Cal. You couldn't have set up a better segue for me if I had asked for it. So I appreciate that.
Showbiz, baby.
Showbiz, baby. Yes, love it. So as I mentioned, we're going to give each Mari and Michael and Cal about 10 minutes to talk a little more in depth about their work. And I don't know to say, I don't know. This will be the improv part of my yes and to how they are kind of crafting their 10 minutes. So I don't know, and Mari will let us know whether you want to open with the piece or talk about the piece and then go to the piece and come out of that and just sort of, offer, any other reflections you want to have. And Mar, I will give you, when we're down to 1 minute, if you're looking, I'll just watch for this and that'll let you know you've got about 1 minute. And
Thank you.
Does that include that doesn't include the piece though, does it?
So are we negotiating?
Do it now.
Yeah.
I need a light. Where's the light? Okay. So I would like to talk about it first and then give you an example of the work that I like to do. So right now, first of all, thank you for being here with us. It feels really indulgent for us to actually talk about what we do. It's such a kind of like, it's good for us too, to kind of put into language why we do what we do. So it's kind of a good exercise for us as artists, but it also feels a little indulgent. So thank you for indulging us. And especially the community that I love and respect so much and I get so much out of. It's just a real honor to just talk to you about what we do. Right now, with the invasion of Ukraine, we can see the forces that are dehumanizing us, or these attempts at dehumanization. We deal with the tech industry can also feel dehumanizing. There's just a lot of pressure on the individual facing living right now. There are a lot of changes in the world. Some of them go back, and some of them are just brand new science that we're trying to parse and learn to live with. I really think that for me, my dream was to, with our group, the Mike and Mari Show, it started out as the fake comedy radio hour. We wanted to create a space that would where people who are liberal-minded and liberal-spirited could come together and laugh together. And I think that it's important to validate the things that we believe in. So when I think about being a Unitarian and being a comedian, and a person that wants to try to use comedy as a tool for love and creating love in the world, that's my ideal, is for us to come together, to gather communities together, to preach to the choir, to remind ourselves what we believe in, to laugh together, to give energy, re-energize ourselves so that we remember when we have to fight, what we're fighting for. We're actually fighting for open society, honesty. Comedy is the most honest art form. It's the big, putting ash on your forehead, always reminding us that we are not anything more than dust. And so what I love about it as a Unitarian is that we're the creators we're the searchers for meaning. We create places for our vision for a positive future. And I think that comedy is a wonderful thing because it allows for the grace, laughter allows for the grace of recognition. In a playful way, we can identify our foibles for ourselves. We can see when we laugh, we can recognize something that maybe is broken in ourselves. And so we can call ourselves and on notice in a very compassionate and graceful way to acknowledge our foibles. I also love it because it demystifies people and movements that seem overwhelming, because it keeps it very, very human. Everything we do is very human. And so that's what I try to use comedy for, especially in the Mike and Mari show. Unfortunately, the COVID situation has made it very difficult for us to really gather community. I really was interested in taking moments to allow people to introduce themselves to each other so they can find each other. A lot of times through media and isolation, we feel as if we're alone, or am I the only one that cares about this, or am I crazy, or does anybody care? And so that we can find each other and remember that we have a community, we have communities that move progress and liberal open societies forward. So I chose this particular piece. It's called Yes, Virginia, There is a Santa Claus. It's a really, I like it because it pokes fun of us liberals and how we are and how we can also be a little bit hard to deal with. And yet, it doesn't undermine anything that we stand for. In Virginia, she's almost like a little Ramona the Pest, bothering Santa Claus. So this is an example of how I hope we can elevate the things that we believe in, laugh at ourselves, and create space for compassion and a better world and better connection with other people.
And this also features Cal.
And yeah, Cal is my dad, and I just think
Enough
it's so
said.
funny. And Michael's Santa Claus. It's very sexy. All right.
Here we go.
Oh, I want to go to the Disney store. Oh, I want a Baby Yoda.
Okay.
I want to go to the Apple store. I want an Apple Watch.
All right.
Oh, I want a hot dog on a stick. Oh, I want a corn dog and a citrus squeeze Jamba Juice.
All right. I'm sorry, honey. I know you haven't been to the ball in about a year. You know, we're still in the orange tier, but restrictions will be lifting soon. So it's still, we can look, but we can't touch anything.
Oh, dear Santa Claus.
What's Santa Claus doing here in the middle of June?
I want to see Santa. I want to see Santa.
Well, there's no line, and last year you only saw Santa on Zooms. What could it hurt?
Ho, ho, ho!
Hello, Mr. Claus. Where are your elves?
There's only one in my pod. He's over there with the camera.
Shouldn't you be at the North Pole making my Christmas toys?
Ho, ho, ho! Santa hasn't worked since lockdown started last year. But now that he's got his stimulus check from the government, he thought he would try and catch up. Come over here and sit on Santa's lap and tell me what you want for Christmas.
I'm not sitting on your lap. That is a sexually ambiguous position made especially creepy since you're about to ply me with gifts. And besides, you're not practicing responsible social distancing.
Okay. You can stand behind the plastic wall over there. What's your name, little girl?
Virginia, you already knew that, didn't you? You've been spying on me all year without even obtaining a FISE award.
Santa just wants to know if you've been naughty or nice.
I find that question invasive and suggestive. And speaking of naughty, I hear you're under investigation from PETA for your reindeer games.
But Santa's reindeers are happy.
Happy? I bet that's what you say about your elves, too. But is there a union? Do you give them unemployment? I doubt it. It's a seasonal job, so they're just freelancers in the new economy. And what are they supposed to do to survive in the off-season? Drive Uber? Pah! The gig economy is a dead end.
Little girl, we're not here to talk about Santa's workshop. We're here to talk about you. What do you want for Christmas?
Well, it goes without saying, doesn't it? We have to reunite the children with their parents at the border and ensure voting rights so we can put an end to white supremacy.
Ho, ho, ho! I'm afraid Santa doesn't get involved in those things.
Oh, so you don't vote? No wonder Wikipedia says you don't exist.
Of course Santa is real.
You can't be real flesh and blood and have no opinion in today's volatile political landscape.
Santa and Mrs. Claus live in the North Pole, far away from all the news.
The North Pole, huh? Well, I guess you've never heard of the New York Times. Or maybe they need to do an investigative report on where you get the money to finance all those toys that are made in China. Whose pocket are you in? And why do you wear a red suit? I bet you can see Russia from the North Pole. I think Bernie Sanders needs to open an investigation in the Senate on Christmas finance reform.
Little girl, where do you get all these ideas?
I've been stuck in the house for over a year binging on MSNBC and C-SPAN with my parents.
You're giving Santa an ulcer. Why don't you go over to that elf hut and have your picture taken with that cardboard cutout of Santa for free?
All right. As long as I can retain the digital rights to my likeness, I'll go. But you'd better check yourself. I know where you live, and I'll be back to check on you this December.
Santa will take what you said to heart and finish the book Mrs. Claus gave him by Noam Chomsky. Ho, ho, ho! Merry 4th of July!
Santa, I'm sorry about the third degree. It's been a long year.
Ho, ho, ho! Santa's got you. When you pick up that picture, you'll get a 25% off coupon at the Willie Nelson Weed Factory next door to Mrs. Fields.
Cool.
Wow, Mari, Michael, Cal, thank you. What a great introduction to, the joys of, capitalism and surveillance economies and how much
I think we covered everything there, didn't we? COVID.
I think you did. Appreciate it. So Mari, we've reached your 10 minutes, so I'm gonna just pause you there, but we'll get to come back and again, people will have time to ask questions about the piece and the experience of writing the piece and other things that may come to mind. So Michael, I'm gonna turn it over to you now.
Okay, well, we started this idea with the Fake Comedy Radio Hour, like Mari said, and our concept was to do a live show with a big band, which the Tiger Club, which is our house band, which is Cal's band, and then we got together with Cal and Nancy and with Johnny Steele, and we were actually Brian Leonard actually was going to do it as well, and we were going to actually do it at the Unitarian Church, a benefit. And COVID happened. And we said, well, we can't perform live anymore, but Trump was just about to start running for office. And we thought, well, we need to actually start preaching the converted, have people know what's going on and start spreading the message. And I've always thought comedy was the canary in the coal mine. It's the thing that you put the bird down there and the bird says, hey, the air's getting kind of thin, so that everybody can go, well, okay, it's time to pay attention. So this particular piece that we're bringing up is a video piece, and we did it live when we worked with the Big Fat Year in Kiss-Off with Will Durst. And as COVID hit, we said, well, how can we, if we can't do it live, how can we do it? And so we said, okay, we'll do it with Zoom. So we did it with Zoom. We had a friend, Gary, who did the editing. And this is called Republican Airlines. Some of the things, actually everything still holds up. I'm just gonna play the video. And the whole thing about the writing process, going back to improv, there's a creative process involved. And the whole idea of improv was you get 12 people on stage or 20 people on stage. How are you gonna get it so that they all pay attention to each other and not everybody talks at the same time? And the tenets were trust, cooperation, and support. And I think that's what the three of us and four of us with Nancy kind of do. We have an idea, we work it through, and then we just go over it again, and we kind of build it together, because as you build it together, it becomes better. John Cleese talked about the tortoise and the hare brain, and I have more of the tortoise hare brain, which is just it just comes to me, in the middle of the night. I'll wake up at 3:00 in the morning and say, I have an idea here, but then I just leave it. And then it's given to Cal and to Nancy and to Mari, and they just take it and say, well, this doesn't work, or this doesn't make sense here. And then we just work it, just like you would work a song. And then it comes out to be better than it was when I originally thought of it at 3 a.m. in my dreams. So it's all of our stuff is based on things that happen in the news and things that we are trying to draw attention to for people. So this thing is called Republican Airlines, and I think it speaks for itself. You want to say anything else to it?
It was put on Zoom for COVID reasons. So
Right.
we used to do it live. And so this is really fun to see all of the way that Gary, the editor, put all these funny images, and we tried to make it accessible when we were all stuck at home.
Which is just what I said.
And on that note,
On that note,
I'm the tortoise. It takes me a while.
all right, everybody see a black screen there? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, there we go.
This your captain speaking. Welcome aboard Republican Airlines Flight 600 to Orange County, California. Now, you may have heard all that fake news about the so-called coronavirus. Well, to ensure the safety of every soul on board, my co-pilot will be wearing a mask and washing his hands throughout the flight. Today, we're operating at 125% capacity, so those of you in the standing section, hold on to your MAGA hats. Take it away, flight attendant.
Woo! Thank you, Captain. And thank y'all for flying Republican Airlines, where we encourage our first-class passengers to enjoy their hard-earned white privilege by relaxing into their Corinthian leather recliners. Please take a moment to find the safety instructions located in the seat pocket in front of you. Your seat belts have been designed for easy fastening and release. We strongly encourage the parents on board to be good role models and use your seat belts to discipline your children. Ow! Should cabin pressure change drastically while in flight, oxygen masks will drop down from the overhead bins in the first-class cabin. Passengers in coach are instructed to wait patiently for the oxygen to trickle down. In the event of a water landing, the gun and Bible located under your seat cushion may be used as a flotation device. I would like to remind everyone that this is a non-smoking flight. But we're working on that. Till we get our freedoms back, nicotine patches may be purchased upon request.
This your captain? Just got word from the tower there's going to be a delay. Appears to be some sort of hullabaloo at the John Wayne Airport. Some protesters are looking to change the name and tear down the Duke statue in the lobby. We'll keep you posted as we get word. This your captain, flight attendant.
Thank you, Captain.
You know, they could have named that damn airport Mel Gibson International, as far as I'm concerned. Wouldn't that be something?
Captain, speakers on, baby.
I tell you what, that old Mel is a class act.
Speakers on, baby.
What? God darn it! How do you turn this damn thing off? Oh, all right. Flight attendant.
Thank you, Captain. For those of you who are wondering, meal service will be provided on this flight. First-class passengers will receive delicacies from the Troupe family Endangered Species Cookbook. Today's specialty will be grilled sea otter with a burgundy baby seal sauce and a side of double condor eggs. For the takers in coach, sometime in the next 45 minutes, a giant Slim Jim will be rolled down the aisle.
This your captain. Sorry to interrupt again, baby doll.
That's all right, baby.
Folks, we got an update from the tower that the Antifa-loving lefty mob has now moved over to Starbucks in Terminal 1 and are overloading the entire dang computer system with their custom orders for soy, milk, chai, mocha, double froth, liberal-loving drinks, which in turn is interfering with the flight tower's navigational system. So it looks like it's going to be a while. We'll be heading back to the gate until further notice. Flight attendant?
Thank you, Captain. Well, looks like our first-class passengers are going to have time to deplane to the captain's lounge where y'all can stretch out at the open bar and sample the light buffet. In keeping with the spirit of fiscal responsibility to our shareholders, we'll be turning off the air conditioning in coach.
Flight attendant, there's a fruity drink with an umbrella in it waiting for you at the lounge.
Thank you, Captain. As you can see, the captain has turned on the fasten seatbelt sign, so y'all don't need to be getting up and touching things while we're away. We thank you for choosing Republican Airlines, the airline that is not pro-choice.
Flight attendant, come on.
Coming, baby.
And I cede my time to the chair.
A question I'm going to cede back to you, to say when you go back and listen to these pieces, from when they started to now to listen to them, I'm just curious. We won't ask you now, but I'm curious to know how it feels to go back and hear them, in the current moment and how it sounds for you. But thank you. Amazing. Great writing. Yeah. Great chickens. Great goats. Appreciate it. Cal, we're going to turn it over to you.
All right. Well, I think maybe we'll talk a little bit about, so just exactly, what do I do in this whole thing, which is as little as possible. I came to the work, as I mentioned in the intro, with Mike and Mari, with the notion that, a lot of energy, want to get engaged, say something out to folks, make a voice heard, however small that voice may be, just do something. And what I found was unintended, and in addition to, achieving, that little goal of being heard, but I found fellowship, I found love, I found nourishment, I found self-care. And, as I've entered into more and more into Unitarianism and, with my work with our church and particularly with my work with UU the Vote, I've come to understand just how important those things are. We cannot, I know that I cannot make any kind of contribution to changing the world and however small that is without some element of self-care and nourishment, because the work is too hard. I think all of you will recall about us going through a process in 2021 to adopt the 8th principle, which is wonderful and nourishing work. It was also very hard work. So I use that as an example to extend to the experience I've had working with Mike and Mari, who I hope you can get at least some sense of just how brilliant these two people are. The very kernel of the idea of Republican Airlines is, to me, still somewhat magical and mystical. The idea that, Michael's selling himself a little short here, waking up at 3 a.m, does more than that. He actually writes the first drafts of all these things and fleshes them out. And I'm always continually amazed by that process, that magic. Where does that come from? And we don't have it here tonight, but I would encourage you, shameless plug, to go onto the website. But another example of that, perhaps the best example of that, is a concept that Michael thought of, NRAQVC. It's funny in its title. And one of the things we love to say to each other, especially to, make light of what Michael does, is, well, what the hell, it writes itself. So go ahead. But it's an amazing thing, and it's magical. So very human. And I love the perspective, that ironical and satirical perspective. And then, again, I certainly hope you get the sense of just how talented Mari is. Sorry, I don't mean to embarrass my partners here, but as the producer, this is what you do. You talk about the artists that you work with. It's been an incredible privilege, and how much fun to sit in this studio and listen to all of these voices come out and all of this marvelous thinking. Mari is also the co-writer. So, as Michael says, in fact, our joke is Michael writes the first draft, then Mari and I strip all of the humor out of it, and then Michael fights like hell to get it back in. And what we end up with is hopefully something that you're experiencing tonight. So all of that taken together is really my experience and how it relates to serving with love. Without love, we couldn't do this. It would not be nearly as good as it is. I'm not sure we would make it. It's hard work. So another wonderful idea, and this one that I want to play that we talked about. Funny thing happened on the way to the forum. As I was doing this work, I realized that I had never forgotten anything that I'd ever seen or heard, particularly in a Warner Brothers cartoon or situation comedies when I was a kid. It was weird. And of course, the same, I think, holds true for, in large part, for Mike and Mari. But here's another kernel of an idea that was wonderful, which is, what does it look like if George and Kellyanne Conway have a situation comedy? And with that, let me get over to share some computer audio. And this is called The Conways.
The Conways is filmed before a live studio audience.
Kellyanne, I'm home.
George Conway, you're late. You know we're having a dinner party tonight.
Well, who did you invite? Any of your old White House gang?
George, you know darn well they're all under house arrest.
They're lucky they're not in the pen.
If they were, I could visit and say hello to your friends from the Lincoln Project.
Touché. So, who's coming to dinner?
Dinner? Who said anything about dinner?
You did.
You're putting words in my mouth. I never said anything about dinner. Why would I say we're having people over for dinner when we're obviously not? See, this is what you people do, and it's so unfair.
Right. What's for dinner?
Roast beef.
By the way, where's Claudia?
She's hiding somewhere, practicing for American Idol. She's singing, "Oops, I Did It Again." Send her a message on Twitter if you want to talk to her. She lives on that phone. Claudia, get off the phone.
All right. Don't get her riled up. She'll just go all emancipation on us again.
She talks too much. I don't think she knows the meaning of the word shut up. She just talks and talks and talks and talks and talks and talks and talks. I don't know where she gets that from, but it's absolutely maddening. I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk so much. She just blabs and blabs and blah 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 blah. I can't believe she blabbed about us to Ryan Seacrest and then the FBI. She really needs to learn to be quiet.
Explain again why the FBI paid us a visit?
Fake news. Now hurry up and get dressed. My boss is coming over for dinner tonight.
So we are having dinner.
Of course we're having dinner. Who said we weren't having dinner? See, this is what I'm talking about. You people are so unfair.
Wait, you got a new job?
Well, we certainly can't make ends meet on your MSNBC salary.
All right, you got a new job, your boss is coming over. Anything has got to be better than working for that other guy.
Hey, Trump was a great boss. He gave us all that hydroxychloroquine.
So, who's your new boss?
Andrew Cuomo.
Kellyanne, you're the greatest.
Aw, don't get all uptight when he tries to hug Claudia.
Well, I had not heard that one before. That was great. Thank you for closing out with that third segment. That was, yeah. And what I loved about it, just to say, like, you know, I mean, again, and I wanted in the Q&A for, you know, to say, in talking about that, like, Cal, I really felt your production pieces in that last piece. Like, they were there through all of them, but that one was like, you know, it really showed the collaboration between the three of you, which is great.
It took him days and days to figure out which laugh went for how long and in what environment the laugh is in, and then the music with the laugh. And that he cobbled that whole thing together, you know.
He does it for every single sketch. It's like he creates the worlds. Like you could see Kellyanne Conway walk onto the stage as like the diva, and then the applause. I mean, you could see it because of Cal's production. He takes our sketches, which are pretty cute, but he makes them just amazing. I mean, it's amazing what he does.
Yeah. So we're going to open it up now to some Q&A, and I just want to go back into gallery view just so I can see everybody. So if you have questions, if you can just either raise your hand or use the little hand emoji, and we'll take them. And we've got about 10 minutes for questions, and I've got a final question for the three of them, and then we have a surprise for the very end. So anything you want to know about comedy, improv, satire, radio production, we cover it all here.
There it is. Okay.
Michelle.
Hi.
Hello.
First of all, thank you so much for making me laugh tonight, and that's a really, really special thing. I just love it. And Michael, I don't think you remember me, but you and I did improv together in never mind. But,
the 40s, I remember.
Improv Incorporated and Chandler, and worked with that whole thing. And I didn't know where you had gone, and this is wonderful. So I'm going to look forward to seeing your show. I think this is really a delightful thing to do. I love being in person to stuff, and I'm sure you do too. And I'm hoping that we'll have a chance again to see that. And now that I know we'll have to have a comedy night at Unitarian. So thank you very much. This has been just absolutely a delight.
Oh, great! Good
Thank
to see you again.
Michelle. That's great. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Dina, do you have your hand up? And just unmute yourself so we can hear you.
Well, I just think that it's a good collaboration, that all three of you have your totally different input. And I was just wondering, do you basically have one writer and then fill it out, or do you just write? Do you all write together, or do you write independently? You must be constantly working on this.
The process basically is I think of I try to think of ideas because I'm an improviser, so I think of an idea and let it come to me, and then I write it down and I give it to Mari, and it takes me half an hour to write it down. Then I'll give it to Mari, and she'll spend 8 hours on it, like just going over every word, and I'll have to like give her tea and feed her and stuff because she won't even move from the and then we bring it to Cal and Nancy, and then we sit around and we have a table read, and literally we get into screaming and yelling matches about a word, or what is the point of this, or is it going, or is there another reference that's better? So that's when we all hammer it out. Then we actually record it, and then we see how it flows, how you hear it. Does the character work? If the character doesn't work, maybe I'll play what Mari's playing and she'll play what I'm playing. So it's truly a collaborative process.
It sounds like a congregational meeting at church. That's what's so fascinating.
Except there's more swearing.
Yeah.
Well,
I think the idea of improv is probably stimulating, and it's kind of like improv at a church.
We take the script and pass it through the Cal-ometer. As Cal, we're too passionate and creative, and then he'll go, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, you guys. And then Michael will say, it's funny. What does it have to make sense? And then we start wrangling and fighting, and then we end up laughing. And then we get surprised. The wonderful moments are when we're recording, and then all of a sudden we just start laughing because we finally did the work, and then we're just kind of letting it flow. And then you kind of find, Michael has the funniest old man voice. There's just stuff that'll just knock us out. At one time we were taping something and I had to scream, and then Cal and I couldn't breathe. We were crying. The one where it's great. I mean, it's a beautiful process. And I just have to say this. They say, don't advertise your man, but this man is amazing. His subconscious is so powerful. I'll go, hey, yeah, Michael, wouldn't this be funny? And then he'll go to sleep in the morning. Boom. This full idea comes out, and then I smash it.
But the whole idea of improv is follow the fear. That it's okay to go into a period where you don't actually know what the end is. And by going into the creative process, what you come out with is a lot better than what you originally thought of. But you can't be afraid of failing. You can't be afraid of engaging. Because it's a process, and it's that collective unconscious that Jung talks about, where everybody's mind is working on different levels, and it forms one cohesive thought.
But here's the thing.
I'm going to pause just because I'm going to ask a question, but if anybody else has a question, I'll stay quiet. So anybody else that has before I let you go, I want to just see if it lets you have it. Does anybody else want something?
We just wanted to really compliment you. It's so wonderful to have humor in these crazy times when we're so serious about everything and so depressed about the other things, that it's just great to think about the quality of the humor. It's so wonderful. So thanks.
Thank you.
We've been loving it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We feel healthier already.
Michelle, do you mind if I ask my question first and then we'll go back to you?
I don't even have to ask a question. I was just going to put some stuff out. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was just kind of where there was a couple of things where Michael and Mari were just talking. And then I wanted to give Cal a chance to talk about, to say that, you're all in the production mode, but just to say on that side of, it's not just about audio recording. So there's kind of two pieces to that. Like, for you, Cal, the coming through that. And then I'm just kind of curious, having coming out of the music industry, the difference between what that experience is like, or the similarities between that. And then I'm going to just tie it back into what I think Michael said earlier about this process of trust, cooperation, and support at the heart of what you do. Which I just think is a great, that's covenantal in a way.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. So Cal, if you just want to have any things you want to share about, I don't know, sort of call it the production side, but just those pieces for you.
Yeah, it's a great question. I had never done what is referred to as sound design. Back in the old Hollywood days, they called it Foley. Foley was, people actually standing around with physical stuff and banging on it and doing all of that, recording it, and then laying up against the film. Some of the best Foley you will ever hear in your life is Warner Brothers cartoons. It is endlessly funny. It is absolutely perfect. And I, talk about a yearning in my heart. I would have killed to be able to do two things. One, attend one of those Foley sessions. Second, any session where Mel Blanc was doing the voiceovers, right? I remember being a kid. Seriously, I was like 8 years old, and the Yosemite Sam would come on, and I thought to myself, that has to be the last thing that he does during the day, because you couldn't talk after doing Yosemite Sam. But the sound design is what we refer to it in the more modern day. You get to use stuff like this and software that has the pre-recorded sounds. But oftentimes I was investigating and pulling from libraries, old Foley libraries, actual recordings. And the reason for that is to try and create, as Michael suggested, what we're testing out here in the Mike and Mari show is, can we create the theater of the mind? Particularly if you stick a set of headphones on where you feel as if you're in that place. So the studio audience in the Conways, just for instance, and I'll keep it brief, not only is it you have to select, okay, I need a studio audience. Well, how many people fit in a TV studio? About 250. Okay, now you got to go source sounds of 250 people. Now you got to put them in an environment. Okay, what does that sound like? Okay, it's has X amount of square footage. It has a little bit of reverberation. What do the actors sound like on the stage? And all of that has to be taken together. And then, as Mari suggested, you're looking for the punchlines and what gets a big laugh and all that. Some of the other stuff that they have written has gotten very elaborate in terms of actual effects and Foley. But it's been very different. In music, you've got 2.5 minutes to tell a story. And you've got to do it with music that is contiguous and that hangs together. With sound design, you get to have a lot of fun and say, I can create a world here that supports the story that's already been written and performed by the actors and the writers. So very different. I love to learn. And boy, was this ever a learning process, particularly at the beginning. And I've got the thousands of files to prove it.
Thank you, Michael. So we have a couple more minutes for questions, but I have a final question for the three of them that will be kind of a fast round robin. But before we turn to that final question, anything else that's anyone's got a reflection, a thought, something they want to lift up, Gail?
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just wanted to second Howard's comment about how great it is to laugh, especially right now. And I remember the comedy well, the committee. When I was in college, I had no money, but I would manage to go find the money to go hear the committee on it. They were absolutely hysterical. So it's nice to be reminded of that too. But thank you very much.
Yeah. So for the three of you, you'll get 10 seconds to reflect, and then I'm just gonna, popcorn on you the how you're gonna answer. So here's the question. And this is what all the people who've been interviewed, everyone's got the same question. So what do you think the magic and purpose of your work is? And what superpower does it have, or do you have through it? So magic or purpose of the work, and what is the superpower? What superpower does it have, or do you have through it? What superpower do you get from having this experience? And Michael, because you look like you're really ready, I'm going to say go. Improv guy, yes, and?
It would be I think happiness and a collective, that everybody gets together in the same room and laughs. There's something healing about that. And the superpower is that at one point, everybody sees everything from the same point of view. And the comedy comes from the fact that everybody can go, oh yeah, I can see that. I reflect on that. But the comedian gives it a little different point of view where they say, oh, I can see that, but I haven't seen it from that point of view.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. Cal?
It reminds me that being human is not an all bad thing. And sometimes in this world that we live in, you can kind of look at the humans and go, you know what, not sure about us. And you wonder where that magic is and if there is any at all. And that is the superpower as well. A superpower, as Michael says, it's within that community and within those interactions that you can reaffirm. We can affirm and promote the worth and dignity. I'm still working on the all persons part.
Yeah. That's why they call it a practice.
Yeah.
And Mari,
I got a lot more practicing to do. Yeah. Mari, take it away.
I think for me, it makes me reflect on the idea that, there's a lot of power in gentleness, that you don't have to be the one that is the great diplomat or the big soldier or whatever, that whatever flows through us creates life. And every time that I bump into, I'm with Michael and go over to Cal and Nancy's house, and it's just because we're together and the way that life comes out of us, it's enough. And it can also contribute to the well-being of the planet in our own quirky little ways. We can't help ourselves when we get together. This is what happens. It happens. It simply happens, and that's okay, and that's enough. And it's surprising. And the superpower is that it's endlessly surprising and life-giving. And so that's it.
And it writes itself.
It writes itself.
Well, we've been so lucky to have you here, the three of you tonight. Thank you for your time, your creativity, your love, your brilliance, and sharing that with us. So as Michael and Mari and Cal were saying, back in the 2000s or 2020s, Michael, Mari, and I had lunch at down at where did we have lunch? At Tommy's joint. Yeah. Oh, so over mashed potatoes and dried turkey and some gravy, the three of us sat laughing our butts off. Yeah, cash only. About the idea of the show, or the original idea of the show for doing, this live improv show at the church. And, we had so many laughs and we just saw the whole thing. And then Cal came in and we met at the church and we were just like, it was just bubbling forward. And then COVID hit and it all had to go away. So it's still my hope that will happen. And, and I have hope that will happen. But one of the things that was going to happen at that live show was that Mari had written a song. Written lyrics, and you can tell me if I have this right, and then you and Cal worked together on this. Do I have that right? And so if you want to say, Mari, a little bit about the song, and then we're going to hear the song that they wrote that was originally going to be performed live at church, but you're going to get to hear it tonight.
Okay, I'm desperately seeking the elevator speech for Unitarians when they say, what's a Unitarian Universalist? And I have yet to do it, but I'm really into the principles. I'm such a Unitarian. If there could be if there was a proselytizing Unitarian, like God loves you or not, or whatever, I just, but it's so important for me to have people access it quickly. And to be honest, I have a meditation practice where I go over this. I sing this little song to myself. And so I asked Cal, hey, Cal, I have this little song. Could you put chords to it? But you guys, Cal is a tremendous musician. he is very humble right now. This dude is unbelievable, and he has so much experience from Nashville and everything he's done. And so I just, kind of forgot about it. And I was a little, as much as we're close, dear friends, I was a little embarrassed about asking him to put the chords to it because he's such a tremendous musician. And I thought, But so I didn't hear anything about it. And then he goes, one day we showed up to write, and he goes, "Here, sit down at my chair." I put some chords to it, and he played it, and it's just unbelievable what he did. And he played the instruments, and he wait till you hear what he did, and he turned it into a real song. And I just sat there and went, it's so beautiful. So Cal is as much a part of this as anything, but that's why I just want everybody to know the principles at least, and maybe that kind of explains who we are. Okay.
So we're going to close out our time with this, and we'll say goodbye after the song finishes. But this is your gift to go. Yeah.
This is Cal's brilliance.
This is Cal's brilliance.
We affirm and promote the worth of every person. We affirm and promote justice, equity, compassion. We affirm and promote the search for truth and meaning. We affirm, we affirm, we affirm you. So come on in and grow your spirit, come on in. World of peace with liberty, come on in. Justice starts when all are valued, so let's begin. Now come on in, come on in, come on in. We affirm and promote the right to use our conscience. We affirm and promote the democratic process. We affirm and promote the web of all existence. We affirm, we affirm, we affirm you. So come on in and grow your spirit, come on in. World of peace with liberty, come on in. Justice starts when all are valued, so let's begin. Now come on in, come on in, come on in. Come on in, come on in, come on in.
Oh,
That's our beautiful Cal.
Yeah.
thank you.
So someday, maybe before the end of the church year, we'll get to hear that live in church. That's my dream.
Yes.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.